What's up, Taiwan? I'm Reece with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. US President Joe Biden has suggested that the US could defend Taiwan if China tried to change the status quo in the Taiwan Strait. Biden made the comments in an interview with Time magazine. Asked if US forces would be deployed to support Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion, Biden said he was, quote, not ruling out using US military force. Rick Glowett is following the story for us here in Taipei. Rick, what exactly did Biden say, and does this signal a change on Taiwan policy from the White House?
So Biden said that he had reiterated to the Chinese President Xi Jinping that the US position was that it did not support Taiwan independence, but that it also will not come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked. He was then pushed on what exactly that defense might look like, whether it would mean boots on the ground here in Taiwan or whether it would mean strikes from nearby US allies Japan or Philippines. These are two countries that the US has been building stronger military ties with to counter China. Of course, Biden refused to go into too much detail. It's not the first time that Biden has commented on whether or not the US would come to Taiwan's defense. In the past, he said that the US would. These comments were then later walked back by the White House because Biden is treading quite a delicate line here. He wants to support Taiwan without enraging China, which of course claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory. So the level of military support offered from the US to Taiwan has always been a bit of a question mark. We know that the US provides Taiwan with the weapons it needs to defend itself, but it's unclear exactly what the US would do if China attacked.
And China is continuing to ramp up the pressure on Taiwan with near-daily military incursions now pretty much the norm, Rick.
So, of course, Taiwan has lived under the threat of China for decades, and Chinese military operations around Taiwan are quite often just shrugged off. Today, the Ministry of National Defense here is saying that there were 26 Chinese planes and 10 military vessels in Taiwan in the last 24 hours. That's unlikely to make big headlines here, but people are paying attention to the nature of Chinese maneuvers around Taiwan. Just 2 weeks ago, when the new President Lai Ching-te, took office, there was large-scale Chinese drills where they simulated how they would isolate or block any international support coming to Taiwan. This week, we've also seen lawmakers flagging the vulnerability of Taiwan's infrastructure, things like power plants, gas terminals, major transport hubs. They're worried that these places could be vulnerable to Chinese saboteurs, Chinese sympathizers, in the event of conflict across the strait.
That was Rick Glowett reporting on US President Joe Biden's comments on military assistance to Taiwan. The US Navy's China Maritime Studies Institute is debating whether to ramp up US Coast Guard operations in Asia. But what does that mean, and how would it affect security in the seas around Taiwan? Well, for more, our reporter Jaime Okan spoke to Ben Lewis, co-founder of PLA Tracker, which monitors Chinese military activity around Taiwan.
Now, this think tank is trying to recommend that the U.S. Coast Guard also operates in the Indo-Pacific and conducts freedom of navigation exercises to conduct law enforcement missions there. Is that a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. For one, it's well within our capability to do. We do joint Coast Guard activities with our allies and partners, so we can send our ships there when we need to. But I think it provides a really effective tool for us to share kind of best practices on how to deal with and learn best practices really from the Philippines and Taiwan, potentially. So when you employ a Coast Guard like China does, it's generally seen as less provocative than deploying a warship. The ships are smaller, and they're just generally less threatening. They're still dangerous when employed in an irresponsible way like China does. But when you work together, it's like with your allies, with the Coast Guard ships. It's like police training in a way for practicing search and rescue, practicing putting out fires at sea. Humanitarian operations. I think it makes sense to build resiliency among our allies and partners in dealing with China in the way that China chooses to apply pressure, not having to rely solely on your military to protect against coercive gray zone activity, because that drains our resources, and that's one of the objectives that China has when it does these things.
And we've seen China spend millions of dollars into modernizing its military and its Coast Guard. And in these recent exercises, after the inauguration speech from Lai Ching-te here in Taiwan, we saw China carry out large-scale exercises using the Coast Guard in the outlying islands of Jinmen. Is that trend going to continue, the use of the Coast Guard?
I would say almost certainly. China, you're right. I mean, China has put a lot of money into the Coast Guard. They've transferred very large ships from the Navy to the Coast Guard because it does act as the tip of the spear. It is their kind of solid gray zone force. That and the maritime militia, which is always supported by the Coast Guard. So in terms of the outlying islands around Taiwan, I think that, we've seen a fairly consistent presence of the Coast Guard. Don't expect that to change. If anything, I think it'll increase. The Coast Guard was featured very prominently in Joint Sword 2024A. That was a change relative to previous exercises. The Coast Guard had a central role, not only around the outlying islands, but also east of Taiwan. I mean, I think, it's very clear that they're trying to develop a synergy between the PLAN and the Chinese Coast Guard and its other maritime law enforcement agencies. I think likely what we should recognize that if there is a blockade scenario, for example, the Chinese Coast Guard is going to be absolutely crucial in enforcing a blockade, just because it's about presence.
That was security analyst Ben Lewis speaking to our reporter Jaime Ocon. Chip designer NVIDIA and electronics manufacturer Foxconn are teaming up to build an advanced computing center in southern Taiwan. The firm's CEOs Jensen Huang and Young Liu made the announcement at the Computex trade show in Taipei. The partnership aims to push AI forward, bringing it into manufacturing, electric vehicles, and robotics. NVIDIA's Huang also highlighted Taiwan's key role in the global tech industry, revealing his company is looking to set up shop here.
Excellent engineers, great technology, excellent work ethic, great spirit. It's a fantastic place. So I'm looking forward to expanding our site here.
AI is a buzzword in the tech world, and it's being heard all over at this year's Computex. As Chris Gorin reports, the buzz won't be going away anytime soon.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, is coming your way. That's been the key theme this year at one of the biggest computer expos in the world, Computex, held in Taipei. With keynote speeches from CEOs and tons of tech on display, everyone here is trying to showcase what AI can do for you. Would you like to walk through a complete digital replica of your factory in another country? AI can help with that. Or maybe you want to play a mystery video game where none of the dialogue is scripted. I'm hoping to find Martin Davis.
And why exactly do you want to find him?
That's a good question. Why am I trying to find him?
You could just say you're trying to deliver a package.
He owes me a lot of money.
Sorry to disappoint, but we're not in the business of loan sharks here.
Whether for gaming or manufacturing, these AI tools rely on cutting-edge hardware to perform these tasks in real time. There's no shortage of flashy new hardware here at Computex, and one product that's been played up both on the keynote stage and here on the show floor are AI PCs, like this. AI PCs have hardware that can perform or accelerate AI functions on the device itself, rather than relying on cloud services online. Microsoft's Copilot PCs are the first to market themselves as AI PCs, so what can they do? Using AI image generation, a few basic strokes and a text prompt can produce an image of a treehouse. It can perform real-time translation on any video or phone call. And one function, known as Recall, takes screenshots of everything you do on your PC. So if you forget which document, video, website, or photo you were looking at, it can help bring it back by searching with text or images. But the technology is still in its early days.
觉得目前使用上还有点局限在，就是可能指令要下得非常正确，跟很明确，它才有办法产出我们心目中想要的东西。
I don't have any privacy concern per se, but right now I'm yet to discover how it will make my life easier.
我觉得就是 AI 的 PC 的话很方便，可是如果一直用的话，总有一天人脑会退化。
But those working in the industry say this is just the beginning.
I think it's going to be really early, and it might be, the hype might really be beyond the actual product itself. But for us, I think, where we really want to stick this out is really in the 3 to 4 year term, where we believe that on-device AI is going to be a game changer.
And he's not the only one. Market analysts are predicting that within 4 years, 70% of PCs being shipped will be AI capable. The technology is new, and the full range of applications are still in development. But one thing this year's Computex has shown is that AI is coming, whether you're ready or not. Andy Shrey and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP has won the country's general election, securing him a third straight term. But critics are concerned about what his win might mean for the country's democracy. Sally Jensen is in the capital Delhi, bringing us the result of the world's biggest election in history.
The 73-year-old self-avowed man of the people, elected leader of the world's most populous country for a third straight term. India's incumbent Prime Minister Narendra Modi has won the world's biggest elections, but not by the landslide widely expected.
दुनिया के सबसे बड़े लोकतंत्र की जीत है.
As leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, Modi's brand of right-wing Hindu nationalism and his cash transfer programs to low-income families have made him popular at home over the last decade. He's credited with strengthening India's international presence and has promised to further bolster manufacturing, tech and clean energy to lift India 2 spots to become the world's third largest economy in the next 5 years. Modi beat INDIA, an alliance of 26 opposition parties led by Rahul Gandhi, but the result defied expectations, as the opposition made major gains, helping dampen what many had thought would be a massive BJP victory.
और देश ने नरेंद्र मोदी जी को साफ कह दिया है कि हम आपको नहीं चाहते हैं.
With a world record-breaking turnout of 642 million voters, these elections took months and several stages of voting across 543 constituencies. The BJP won 240 seats in India's lower house, the Lok Sabha, falling short of a majority needed to form a government, less than they won in 2019, 303, and even in 2014, 282. This loss of seats has come as a surprise to many, as Modi had been leading in the public opinion polls ahead of the vote. But for his opponents, Modi's Hindu-centric rule has verged on authoritarian, and they had been pushing to persuade voters not to choose him.
Democracy is in danger. The Indian Constitution, which gives equal right to every citizen to practice their own religion, people are being divided, or people are being polarized on basis of religion, caste, creed and color.
Despite rapid economic growth and massive welfare spending, poverty remains a problem among the agriculture-dependent workforce. And some of the country's Muslim minority fear social marginalization and even physical attacks from Modi's right-wing supporters. He's eased tense relations with China, but the ongoing risk of clashes at the two countries' shared border, which surfaced nearly 4 years ago and have led to an ongoing standoff, will test his diplomatic acumen. And now, facing a strengthened opposition, which won over a significant portion of the electorate, Modi will be under the most pressure of his entire premiership.
That also shows that there is a sense of some kind of a fatigue or some kind of a realization from the BJP also that people are really not that happy. So when I say about the personality cult, there is also some kind of chinks in the armor in the personality cult also.
Without the strong single majority it enjoyed in 2019, the BJP will have to form a coalition with smaller parties to form a government. Set to serve another 5-year term, Modi's meagre win has been welcomed by his supporters here with fairly muted celebrations. As the face of the BJP, the surprise setback is a reflection on him and may show that India's Modi fever is beginning to cool. John Su, Suvan Pal and Sally Jensen in New Delhi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Reece Ayers. Take care and we'll see you next time.